Hello, my name is Todd Dunken II, and I'm here to tell you a little story about my life, particularly what happened in my life in October of 2023. But first, a backstory is in order. My fiance, Patience, and I first met in high school back in 2014. Now, we initially started as just close friends, nothing more. Now, it wasn't until 2015 that we started having feelings for one another. Now, fast forward a couple of years to 2017, and we're living with each other and had been together for about a year and a half at that point. And of course, being the young couple that we were, me being 17 and her being 18, we discussed our future together quite a lot. You know, about how many children we wanted, how big of a house we wanted, where we wanted to live, the whole thing. Of course, a lot of that talk seemed to be a distant reality at the time. At the end of the day, we were both so young. How could we know what we wanted? Moving forward a few more years to 2019, we were expecting a baby. At the time, I was a full-time student in college and incredibly nervous to become a father. I knew Patience and I would get through it together, and that's all that really mattered. But unfortunately, life did have other plans for us. We went in for a routine appointment, and unfortunately, there was just no heartbeat detected. Just like that. Our hopes and dreams were crushed. We knew we wanted to try again, but we just didn't want to rush anything, especially after this tragedy. Now, fast forward to the year 2023, sometime in May, our lives were completely different from what they were in 2019. I was no longer in college, but Patience was, and we had just gotten some pretty good news. We were expecting another baby finally. I remember being so excited, but so scared at the same time. I couldn't help but be reminded of how our last pregnancy went, and the heartbreak that led to. In fact, we kept this pregnancy a secret from 90% of people until we knew the gender. I still remember the day we found out the gender. We didn't do a big reveal or anything. We had just woken up and checked Patience's emails for the report. I remember seeing in big, bold letters at the top of the report saying boy. And once I saw that, I couldn't believe it. I had always wanted a son, just a little mini-me roaming around. And in fact, the day we found out we were having a son, we decided on a name, Kamdyn Anthony Duncan. I finally felt a greater purpose in life. I started performing well at work, and we were saving up a lot of money. Life just finally felt good. I was stressed about becoming a father, but overall I felt ready. I remember how excited I was when the Pixar-themed baby carrier arrived. I also remember how easy it was setting up the crib. We were so ready. Moving forward, though, to Thursday, October 5th, 2023. Almost 1 week after we assembled Kamdyn's crib. The day just felt off. Both Patience and I were having rough days, but rough days happen. Nothing out of the ordinary. Patience got home from work and started making dinner while I was working. But out of nowhere, though, her water broke. Way too early. We were only 20 weeks into the pregnancy. We both felt confused and scared, and I remember making the call to 911. The image is still seared in my brain of her leaving the apartment to go meet the paramedics and the ambulance. Now, I should have rode with her in that ambulance, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I, of course, drove myself to the hospital and met her in room 1802. She wasn't allowed to leave the hospital bed, and her whole lower body was extremely elevated. Nurses frequently visited us, and they constantly brought with them a mobile ultrasound machine. Now, we knew something was wrong. It's just the nurses and even the doctor were not telling us something, but we had a feeling. For those of you who don't know, when you're looking at the screen of an ultrasound, the heartbeat looks like a light flickering, almost as the heart pulses. And each time they brought that ultrasound machine in, the light appeared to get dimmer and dimmer. It wasn't until Friday morning that our worst fears were confirmed. Unfortunately, there was just no heartbeat detected. And that sucked. Now, we both don't like to show emotions in front of others, but once the doctors left the room, we both immediately broke down. The plan was to induce labor Saturday morning. That way Patience could birth Kamdyn. And I tell you what a sick joke to be forced to birth your baby who's tragically not alive. And Saturday morning at 6:51 a.m., that is what happened. Kamdyn Anthony Duncan was born sleeping. Now, you might ask yourself, how did this all happen? Well, the pregnancy was terminated due to a medical condition often referred to as incompetent cervix or cervical insufficiency, which only impacts 1% of expecting mothers globally. Kamdyn's death was classified as an early stillbirth, which in the United States only happens in 0.6% of pregnancies. So how did this all happen? Bad luck, I guess. Now, I have always been the creative type, and I knew that I wanted to create something in Kamdyn's honor. And being the musician that I am, I decided to dedicate my next album to him. I wanted it to be special and symbolic, unlike anything I've ever done before. So for the past 3 months, I have been working on an album that consists of 9 tracks composed for the solo piano. These pieces are intentionally rather simple to perform, almost childlike, and in fact, I had always joked with patients that I wanted to put Kamdyn in piano lessons at a young age. For the past however many minutes that you've listened to my story, you have heard some of these tracks from my album in the background. The album is titled A Child in His Room, and it was released at 6:51 a.m. on October 7th, 2024. Now, I made this album not only to honor my son, but to raise awareness. Many women have no idea what cervical insufficiency is. And again, it only impacts 1% of expecting mothers globally. Now, if you are interested in streaming this album or even purchasing the sheet music for this album, I will attach links below in the video description. Now, you might ask, how are patients and I doing after all this? Well, it's been a year since the tragedy, and life continues. We plan to try again for another baby, hopefully sometime soon. If you made it this far, I just wanted to say thank you for watching and listening to our story. I hope you consider listening to my album.